Hey everyone, welcome to another video. It's been a really long time since we last chatted, so I hope you've been doing well. Thanks for stopping by. I think this is the longest I've gone without posting a video. It's definitely been many months since I last uploaded something to this channel, so thank you for your patience and your understanding. I think most of you guys who've been following me for a long time know the spiel about my consistent inconsistencies when it comes to posting, that it's usually because of work just keeping me super busy and just not having the time or the mental energy to put together a video for you guys. I guess I could talk a little bit more about how I've been a little bit later in this video if we have time, since I feel like it's more interesting to talk more about the piece than about myself and just rambling about that. So I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end if we have some time. But so in this video, I am coloring a fan art piece of Albedo from the game Genshin Impact, which I've been playing a lot of since last year. This was actually sketched and line arted, I think, back in January when the game had their version 2.3 update, and the story quest that came out with that update featured Albedo, and it was just so well done and probably one of my favorite story quests to date. And I actually pulled for Albedo and got him. He's a character that I've been waiting on for a really long time for his banner to come back. So I was really happy to be able to get him, and so I just wanted to make some fan art of Albedo just as a celebration of finally pulling him and having him as a playable character, and also just because the story quest was so good. But again, with work keeping me so busy, I actually didn't get a chance to come around to actually coloring this piece until now. But yeah, so this piece was done with alcohol markers. It was primarily with the Ohuhu markers, but I did do the skin colors with my Copic markers just because Copic continues to take the lead in terms of having the really light skin tones, which are really good, especially when you're going through multiple layers. Otherwise, things tend to get really dark or really super saturated. And I typically will use my Copic markers when trying to do the skin colors, and then everything else, if I'm able to, I will use my Ohuhu markers. And I feel like other than the variety of colors that Copic has compared to Ohuhu, the quality, I think, is pretty comparable. I mean, definitely there's a difference when you're using the markers. Like the Copic markers definitely just feel a lot more professional and just more comfortable to use, and I feel like layering the colors can be a little bit easier just because they have so many more colors compared to Ohuhu, and they have very, very light colors, so it makes it a little bit easier when you're layering and blending and you don't have to worry about making anything like super saturated. But other than that, I think like looking at the piece itself and looking at the colors, you don't really notice a huge difference between the quality. And I think with Ohuhu coming out with their pastel colors, that's definitely closed the gap even more, because I know their normal colors can be super saturated. But overall, I'm just really happy with the way that this piece turned out. I do want to point out that unfortunately, for some reason, the phone that I use to film everything has this really bad habit of kind of making everything look really washed out, and sometimes the colors look really fluorescent. This is something that I have brought up before in previous videos. I do film with the Samsung Galaxy S20, which is a newer phone, so it is a little bit disappointing that the quality when it comes to filming and taking photos is not that great. I used to have the Samsung Galaxy S3, and then I had the S7, and both of those were really good in terms of filming and taking photos of like non-real things. So like I feel like the S20 is really great when you're taking photos of people or of nature, but then whenever I try to take photos of my artwork or of my bullet journal and things like that, for some reason the quality just isn't the same. And I noticed that when I was filming this video for you guys, It was with really good, like just bright natural lighting. So I thought that the quality and the colors would look really good, especially because sometimes when taking photos or videos with darker lighting or when there isn't a lot of natural lighting, the colors can look a little bit wonky. But for some reason, when I was filming this, I was like, oh, this is great. This is optimal lighting for filming. But then everything just looked really washed out, and some of the colors even looked weirdly fluorescent. So you'll probably notice that in a good portion of this video, unfortunately. Even looking at Albedo's skin, it just looks very like highlighter and fluorescent-y. And Albedo does have very pale skin, so there wasn't a lot of like saturation or color to begin with that I was laying down. But in comparing the actual piece and then what I was seeing on the screen when I was filming, there's definitely a huge difference, and everything just looks very washed out, which is unfortunate. But I think as I was filming this and as the day was going by and the natural lighting wasn't as intense, the colors did look a little bit better. And then definitely at the end when I'm doing more of like a zooming in or just showing photos that I took of the piece, hopefully you'll be able to appreciate the colors a lot more there. But I think a lot of the washout was with the lighter colors, so mostly his skin and his hair, which is a bummer. I think maybe eventually I'll want to look into investing into a more professional camera than just using my phone, especially because when I'm filming, of course I want to capture just the artwork itself, and then it's kind of a bummer when the quality just isn't there, especially with something like the Samsung Galaxy S20, where you would think that by now they would have done a much better job with their technology and all of that. But it is what it is. Hopefully you guys are still able to appreciate the coloring process and the finished piece, because this did come out pretty good. I feel like whenever I'm filming something, it's always a toss-up of whether or not it's going to turn out the way that I envisioned. There's definitely a different feel to making art when I'm filming as opposed to just making art in my free time without the stresses of, oh, I'm filming this. Like, is this a good angle? Is this capturing the essence of art in an interesting way? And silly stuff like that. But all of that is to say that I did really like the way this piece turned out. Later on, you will see me use my light purple Coley Race colored pencil just to add more definition and color to the shading of the skin and the hair. I definitely could have done it with a very light colored alcohol marker, but sometimes it's just easier to go back and have that control with a colored pencil as opposed to laying down more ink, especially because the blending is a little bit more difficult once the ink dries. So you'll see me do that. I also have been really into using the Sakura Pen Touch metallic markers. I don't know if they're markers, they're kind of like a calligraphy type of pen, but you'll see that at the end of the video when I'm adding accents to the background. But I just have been going ham with these like metallic markers just because they add so much pop and it's just such a nice finish to the piece. So you'll see that at the end. I think that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about with this piece. But yeah, so I guess at this point I could kind of talk about where I've been for all these months, and also just to bring those of you who are newer to the channel just kind of up to speed with everything. So as a recap, I am currently a resident physician and I am doing training in both internal medicine and pediatrics. So I'm going for a double board certification, and I'm essentially going through a training program where we are condensing 6 years of training into 4. That's kind of the standard for doing double boards in internal medicine and pediatrics, is that it's a very tight curriculum, it's very rigorous, and the second year of training is definitely more on the intense side just because of the amount of ICU training that I'm doing. And as you can imagine, when you're in an ICU, the patients are very, very sick and they're very high acuity, so it's very mentally draining, it's physically draining, and then the hours are just not nice. So typically when you're on an ICU rotation, you're averaging like 70 to 80 hours a week. So as you can imagine, coming home, I don't have a lot of time for myself, and in the time that I do have, I feel like I'm just very, very burnt out and just don't have the energy or the motivation to try to put together a video, which explains why I've been MIA for so long, since June of last year, I've done 4 months of ICU, and each of those is, it's a 4-week block, and I may have a lighter, less intense rotation in between. But then after that, it's kind of like, oh, I have another ICU rotation. So I don't really have a lot of time to kind of take a break and kind of refresh and recharge. And so during these light rotations, I just am so tired and just so burnt out that even when I do have time to try to make art, I feel like I just get very frustrated because I haven't been doing art consistently when I'm on these rotations, if at all. And so then when I finally do have time to be drawing or sketching and doodling, I'm just very rusty. And so the art that I do end up putting out is not what I envision. And so then it kind of just spirals into this cycle of making art, not being happy with it. And so then I'm not making art again for a while. And then I have the urge to make art, and then it's not what I want, and it just keeps going through the cycle. So that's kind of where I've been, but I'm finally on vacation for 2 weeks, so I'm hoping that I will be able to take this time to just kind of mentally recharge and put together more videos for you guys. But again, don't hold me to it. I make content when I'm in the right mindset for it, so I can't guarantee the next time I upload something to this channel. But thank you for your continued patience and your understanding. I do make art that I don't film, so if you guys want to see more of that, I do have links to my social media down in the description as always. So feel free to check that out if that's something you're interested in. And with that kind of brings us to the end of the video. So thank you again for stopping by. And if you made it to the end of this video, thanks so much for listening to me rambling and all of that. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. In the meantime, I hope you guys continue to do well, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and I will see you soon.